Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. Today we are talking about how to make this awesome herringbone crochet blanket. Now mine is not very wide yet. It's only about maybe 18 inches wide or so. So I need to keep going on more panels. This is how we're going to do this. We're going to start working here with our teal. As you can see, I'm alternating my colors. So I have a photo which I will include right here that shows you the full blanket as far as I've gone, and I also have an image of the pattern that I created to make this blanket. So we are going to work in panels. What that means is that we're going to start here at the bottom and we are going to work this much and all the way up to the end where we want to finish our blanket. Now mine keeps going, so you can see mine keeps going all the way to the end there, and that's where I stopped mine here at this gray panel after my next teal one. So what I did was I have two main colors. So I have my white and my light gray, and then two accent colors. So my two accent colors are the teal and the charcoal gray. Okay, so you can see that here. So this is my pattern. It goes accent color, white, light gray, white, and then other accent color, and then repeat. So I have white, light gray, white, and then the first accent color again. So, and then we keep going from there. So I'll show you the pattern. It looks like this. And we're, like I said, we're going to work our way up in panels. And then when we get to the second one, this second panel here, we create it and we attach it. So we're going to attach right here, this panel to this one. As we work our way up each row, we attach it to this panel here. So that's how I'm going to make this easy and beginner friendly as a corner to corner blanket. You could, of course, work it the same way that we did our heart panel in our 30 stitches in 30 days videos, which was literally you start in the corner and you work your way up and down like this, up and down, up and down, up and down, diagonally, diagonally, diagonally. And then you're going to switch here to one white square, teal, 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 and then more white going this direction. I didn't do it that way. Okay. What I did is I think I started right here at the corner. So you guys will see that once I get into how we did it. We start here, we make our 8 rows of teal, and then we switch to white. We work 8 rows of white. So 8 squares each. And then we went 8 rows high. And then at the end, which was, I believe over here, we switch to our next color. And then we're going to work our way up and back and up and back and up and back and switch back to our white. I'm going to show you the beginner way to do this one, the easy level version where we crochet it in panels. And so what that leaves us with is 2 ends to weave in for each of our diagonal squares. I'll show you what that looks like right now. I wove in a bunch of them a while back, not all of them. So you can see I have a bunch here at the top, but you've got lots of ends to weave in. This one to me is easier because you're only crocheting with one color at a time. So that's how we're going to do this one. This has been a long enough intro, but let's jump in. All right, so to get started with this blanket, we're going to use a couple of our loops and threads in the Impeccable. This color is Aqua, this color is Thunder, and then we are going to use our 2 main body colors. White is going to be the Red Heart in the Comfort, and then the gray main color is going to be this Bernat Cozy style. The 2 small ones, of course, loops and threads from Michaels, and those are linked in the description below. Now, we are also going to use our 5mm crochet hook. We are going to start off with our Aqua accent colors. We are starting out with 8 rows of increases in our corner to corner stitch. So now we're going to transition from the aqua over to the white. So I'm going to tie this on here and we're going to begin to make this more into a long skinny panel. Chain our first one, which does not count as a chain in our row. And then we're going to chain 5. And then we're going to work back into the 3rd chain with 3 double crochets into the 3 chain stitches. And 3. And now we're going to turn our block up and over, slip stitch to the top of the single here at the bottom. Now we're going to work our working blocks all the way up to the end. So it's chain 2 and 3 double crochets into the chains or last double crochet from the end of the previous block. So see how this block goes sideways, our stitches go horizontally. We want to work our 3 stitches into the end and then slip stitch to get us to the beginning of the next block. So we're going to work that all the way along, and then we're going to decrease at the end of the row here. I'll be back in just a second to show you what that looks like. Just finishing our last block here, and we want to remain beside that single here on the other end of the row. So now we're going to slip stitch to the last aqua one here, and now we're going to turn it around and make sure our yarn comes across to the back in front of our hook. Now we're going to slip stitch across back to the corner. So use as many slip stitches as you feel like you need. There isn't a specific number, but you just want to make sure that you're across to here. Okay, now we're going to continue working that exact same row, increase at the other end this time until we have 8 rows of white, and then we are going to switch to our light gray, and then we're going to switch back to white again. Our pattern is accent color, white, light gray, white, other accent color, and then go back to the other teal. So really the blanket is going to be a light gray and white blanket with some interspersing of dark gray and aqua. Okay, and here we are at the end of this row. So we're going to finish our last regular block here as an increase at the end of this row. Okay, so from the end of our first little half block here, we want 8 blocks on every single row, and then we are good. So we're going to continue working 8 rows of white before we transition to our light gray. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment and we'll be ready to do that. All right, so here we are finishing our first panel. It's not completely finished, but I wanted to stop here and actually get working on the second section. So we are alternating our color panel with the light gray, the dark gray, and then the light gray again. And I finished here with another teal to, sort of finish off this row, but I don't think it's finished. We're gonna keep going. I just wanna get moving on the next section. Now here at the bottom, I did weave in a bunch of my ends because there was all kinds of them. So I would recommend doing this as you go, and that will make things just that much easier. Now to get started with our second panel, we're going to start with a white triangle, the same as this teal one, directly beside in the opposite direction. So we're going to grab our white, and to get started, we're not going to start with our slip knot the way that we did previously. We are going to insert our hook and pick up our yarn. So I want to come down into the corner. This is the chain at the corner of the row. I'm going to draw up a loop, and then we're going to hold on to our tail here. And now we're going to begin a starting block. So we need 5 chains and then 3 double crochets in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th chain from our initial one on our hook. Now what I want to do is I want to slip stitch it to the top of this one, so we can see here's the chains at the beginning or at the end where the block over top of it was crocheted. So this one goes vertically, and there is the chains that we crocheted into. So we're going to actually insert our crochet hook into there and slip stitch to finish our block. Okay, now this is going to be row number 1 of this next block. So this is going to be row number 2. So ordinarily we would turn and go the other way. I'm going to chain 2, and then we're going to slip stitch again to anchor everything down. So we're going to keep flipping everything over as we need to. This one, and probably all the ones that we work along the edge of this, is going to be a slightly different version of our blocks. So what we want to do is we want to chain. Okay, so we're going to chain 2, slip stitch into the end of the second block over on the square below. Okay, and then chain 2 more, and then we double crochet 3 into the chains that we just made. Okay, so we want it to be the same, like see how there's like a little hole here happening at the end? That's what we want. We want to basically mimic that, but also attach it to the row beside it. Okay, slip stitch, 1, 2 chains, 3 more double crochets into the chains at the side of this block. And now we're going to do another starting block because we're starting at the outside corner. Okay, so 5 chains and another starting block. So our starting block again, 5 chains, and then we skip 2 and do 3 double crochets into 3, 4, and 5 chains. And then we're going to turn everything over. So 2 chains for block number 2, and then 3 double crochets. We'll slip stitch again. And now we're going to do our next one and slip stitch up against this teal block here. And then we're going to do the same as we did with row number 2. We're going to do chain 2, slip stitch at the top of the next block as our 3rd and then 2 more chains to create the beginning double crochet. We turn it over. Okay, now we're going to continue working this beginning block when we're working away from the current strip, and then slip stitch, and then we'll continue working that row down, and then we'll do another starting block, work our way back up. We're going to have eight blocks across the bottom before we're going to stop. It's going to end us right here, and so we'll keep crocheting, and then we're going to switch to the charcoal block, which is this dark gray one here. Now you can, of course, pattern this however you like. You can do 2 colors. You can do, like, you know, all light gray and white, or blue and white, or whatever you guys want. Like, it's completely customizable. These are the colors I chose because they are favorites of mine and are going to be a beautiful throw blanket. And this one's going to be fun because we're going to use it to stage our house when it goes up for sale in a couple of months. Let's keep going with this white block. And then once we get to the end of the triangle, we're going to start doing our decreases on the outside to keep our side nice and straight and keep our sizing right. So let's keep going. I will include, you know, the written instructions for this one in the blog post the way I usually do, but this is a full blanket pattern, so this one's going to take a while, okay? This video is going to be a longer one, so stick with us. I mean, if you think you know what you're doing now, that would be great, but we're going to switch colors and then keep going up the side. Then we'll switch over to the next row, and then of course pretty much from there it will be a repeat row, okay? Or a repeat column. You know, the third strip's going to be very similar to the first one, although we are of course attaching it to the second. So we're going to keep going like this, but it is going to get really repetitive, okay? So stick with us if you guys want. You can pause the video here, do this block, and then come back in a moment when you're ready, and we will switch colors and start working our way up the side, attaching to this first strip that we have done, okay? All right, we'll be back in a moment. All right, so just finishing off this last row of white here before we switch over to our charcoal. We're gonna end up at the outside of the row, and we're gonna work our way along with the decrease row right away. All right, so there is the corner. So now we're gonna turn, and now we're gonna start decreasing. So we slip stitch across the last block or to the opposite corner of where we began, and tie on our dark gray. Okay, so then we pull down the white so it disappears inside the block. And now we have our two chains, which was really 3 because we want to use the first one as our disappearing one. And yes, I'm crocheting over the white for just a few stitches here. I'm gonna cut it off afterwards and weave it the rest of the way in. All right, so here we are at the end of the block, and we switched over to our charcoal, and now we're going to work our way up and continue the same pattern that we had done before, except now we're going to do decreasing up the outside. We're going to be decreasing up the outside and increasing still on the inside against the strip that we just finished, a panel, if you will. So we're just going to keep going. Now every row is going to be 8 blocks. So if you're not sure what's happened or something's happened to your pattern, from this point on, every row will be 8 blocks long as we work in the diagonal fashion up towards the middle and then again out towards the outside. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Chain 2. And then we slip stitch here, right into the space between this block and the next one. Chain 2. Okay, so that's our 5. So 2 slip stitch is the third, 4, 5. Turn everything over. And now we're going to work our double crochet over these chains that we just made. Okay, so 3 of them over the chains, and then slip stitch to the last block from the previous row. So that's it. We're going to keep going and changing color as we need to. So after the charcoal block, we're going to do a white one, and then we're going to do a light gray like this one. We have charcoal. Okay, so basically everything's just going to be offset. Charcoal, white, light gray, white, teal. Okay, that's our pattern up this row. And then we go again like we did at the beginning of the first block. So that teal is there now. And then we have white, light gray, white, charcoal. Okay, so we're going to keep going in that exact same fashion. Every row or every panel will be the same. So we're going to keep working. I will come back and do panel number 3 with you at the beginning because it will be opposite again this one, so it's going to be the same as this one. how are we going to start this row if it's just starting with one block here at the bottom. So we'll talk about how to do that. I'll do a bunch of colors of this panel, and then I will come back and we'll do the beginning of the next one. Okay. And if you're going to make this one, you can definitely pause, come back to it after you've crocheted for a while, save it in your watch later list, you know, and then come back to it as you get to the next section. That's awesome. I hope you guys like this one. Of course, if you do, hit the like button because it is so telling to me what are your favorite videos. All right, so here we are, finished our second panel of our herringbone. The herringbone's starting to come together and it is looking real lovely. I'm really excited about how this one looks, and we have stopped here at the end, and I have to decide whether or not I'm going to keep going and make it longer or just basically decrease off both of the corners to finish off the panel. So I have not yet measured it to see how long it is. But I will do that and decide how much longer I want it to be before finishing it off. We are going to start panel number 3, and what is going to happen from here is we're going to use panel number 2 as our initial triangle here that is attached to the first one. Now we need to go and make another one like this teal one here, and it's going to attach to the corner here at the white only, and then we're going to work our way up the panel. So we are going to start independent of the blanket. For this color section, we are starting with our light gray. So we're starting with our gray. So we're just starting our regular corner to corner. We want 8 rows of corner to corner. And then at the end of our 8th row, we're going to attach our last square as if it was attached to the blanket like we did on the last ones. So I'll show you what I mean. All right, so here we are. I have done 7 rows of my gray square for the next panel, and I want to change colors at the outside. So I'm actually going to chain 2 here, and then we're going to slip stitch to the bottom corner of the white one here. So we're going to slip stitch to there. Okay, so we're going to chain 2 again, slip stitch to the top of the block, so the opposite end where we slip stitched last time, and then now we're going to turn everything and we'll finish our double crochets into the initial 2 chains that we did. And yes, this is going to be really flimsy at this point. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine once we get a couple of more rows done. So then we slip stitch to the last block from the previous row. Okay, so now we have 1 block that's attached to the white here. And then now we're going to finish our last row of gray before switching to our white. So let's do a couple of more rows. I'll go over again how to attach that square to the next panel. And you can absolutely go ahead and weave your ends in as you go. I'm gonna have to take a moment here and do all of mine because they're getting a little crazy. And so when I come back, it will be a much cleaner looking blanket, hopefully. And there is the end of our first half square for this side of the blanket. So you can see here what's happening. We've got it well attached here at the bottom, and now we're going to make our white square that goes directly beside it. So we're going to tie on our white, cut our gray, and continue. So I'll be back and I'll show you exactly how to reattach this panel to the next one. So we're going to continue increasing on this outside, and our decreases are going to happen inside against the other panel. So this one will be a slight modification from what we were doing on panel number 2. So pay attention, this one is definitely going to be different. Okay, so here we are at the end where the rows and the 2 panels are going to meet. So we're going to chain 2, 3 double crochets, slip stitch the corner. We're going to pull to tighten it. Okay, so now we have these ones going this way, this one going this way, and then we're going to turn everything over so that we can slip stitch along the edge of that last block, slip stitch to the next one, to the other side of that block and chain 2, slip stitch again, and double crochet 3 into the side of that last block. That should be enough to make that a lot easier. And now we can just work the row. Now we're going to keep working our way up. After this white block, we're doing a teal, and then of course we're going white, light gray, white, dark gray. Again, keep crocheting, and we're going to do panel 2 again after it. Panel 2 will start with white, and you'll just keep following our panels back and forth, following our color changes for the rest of your blanket until it's the desired size. When you get to the end of your pattern or your full length of your blanket, like we did here at the other end, you're just going to start decreasing on both sides until you're at just one block left at the corner, and you're finished that panel. When you reach your desired size, you'll stop, create your border on the outside, and call it a day. So any questions, of course, comment down below. So I hope you guys like this one, and I will come back once we have some more finished and show you our finished product. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us for this super fun blanket with our corner to corner crochet in this herringbone style. I have gotten to the end of our third panel, and now we work back between row panel number 2 and panel number 3 to keep going for the width of your blanket. It turns out that I probably will need 2 balls of the teal, now that I'm kind of have an idea how much I used. 2 balls of teal and 2 balls of dark gray before, and also 1 big ball of the white, possibly 2, 1 big ball of the gray, possibly 2. I'm not quite sure yet. If you make this one, just buy enough yarn because you don't want to have to go back to the store and get another of this exact same teal color. Of course, if you don't have to switch in the middle of a square, it will be less noticeable because none of the squares are side by side. If you run out of teal in the middle of a square, I would rip it back and start again with a whole new ball, and then maybe use whatever you have left as like one of these little triangles on the other end or at the beginning of a row. Now here is where I will show you the chart that we used for this one, so go ahead and hit your screenshot button. I will also link it in the blog post, and this pattern will be included as both a free pattern written on our blog and a paid pattern on our Etsy site as well, which is all linked in the description below. Okay, so you guys can check those out. If you want to support the channel, go to Etsy, buy the pattern. It would be lovely, and you can go ahead and make this one. It's a very detailed tutorial for this one, and just because of how involved it was to actually create this pattern. And as you can see, the video is pretty long too. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If this is the first time you are meeting with us here on the channel, but you really like this video, hit the subscribe button as well. You can also hit the like button and show us which videos are your favorites. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you in this video here on the screen.